We have some more comments, questions, answers, a lot of answers from my emails. I'm not going to name names on this one. This is going to be anonymous, but there's a lot of questions on there that I get on my emails, so let's get going with this right now. I'm Tom Kovichak, and this is Tom's Trains and Things. This channel was created to help other modelers who are in need of guidance in pursuing their dream of building a model railroad. And we're going to go over some more comments and questions, mostly questions from my viewers who sent me emails and contacted me through the web page. So let's get going with this right now, right after this. If you would like to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit my subscribe button. You know why? Because it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, ding that bell so you could be notified whenever I have a new video coming out, because that's the only way you're going to get notified, is if you ding that bell. So let's get going with this right now. Previously on Tom's Trains and Things, we talked about another Q&A, and this time for the emails, and that's what we're going to do. The emails and the contacts from my webpage. And the first one is, and I get this on the comments in my videos, and I also get it in the discussion page, and I get it on the contact page of my web page. What's your email address? It's tomstrains@gmail.com. It's listed in my videos in the descriptions. It's also listed in my web page, which I show up here at the header, and you could also contact me through the contact page on my web page. Now, YouTube said that when they got rid of the private message, which they just did last week, that you would still be able to use the for business inquiries on the about page. But anyway, my email is tomstrains@gmail.com. A lot of the questions that I'm getting is about generic motor shields, not the Arduino one. I went and got myself an Arduino one. I have two Seed Studio motor shields, version 1 and version 2, that I decided I wasn't going to try to use because it uses different pins on there. But I am getting so many questions about the generic ones that, you know, these people are getting the generic ones because they can't get the Arduino ones. The Arduino ones are still available. You can't get it through Arduino. You can't get it through Amazon, but there's other distributors out there that you can get them. You're not going to be paying $22 for them, which is the list price from Arduino. I've seen them as high as $29 now, but they're still available. So if you Google it, you'll be able to find them. I've spent the past couple of days working with my Seed Studio motor shield. Now, this isn't a cheap one. I looked it up, and now they still sell it, and it goes for about $19.95. There's other motor shields out there that go for as low as $5, $6. You want to stay away from those. A lot of them don't use the L298 IC. It uses the L293, which is less amperage. I know one of my viewers said that he found one that he got it working. It was a Deke robot, I think he called it. He said he got it on Amazon. I looked on Amazon. I didn't see anything that they sold as far as a motor shield for Deke. But I did find it, and that was the only thing that they manufacture, and it's a L293. I'm glad that you got it working on there, and I wish you would share your experience with all of us on how you got it working. Now, the way I've been doing this, I've been testing this thing out, and I'll show you up here. Now, this is for the Arduino motor shield. You'll see direction is D12 and D13. That is the figures that you're going to have to change if you use a generic motor shield. PWM, you're going to have to change D3 and D11 on Arduino, and brake D9 and D8, and current sensing A0 and A1. A lot of the motor shields don't use the current sensing or the brake, but the ones that do have it, you're going to have to change those settings on there. And I'm going to show you where you have to do it. On this page here, DCC pp_uno.h is where all the figures are. Now, what I tried doing, I even tried it with the library for my Seed Studio shield, but that just made it worse. But here's what I'm talking about right here. These are the two numbers that are critical, and they're hard to change. I'm not sure how to change them. I know I saw where, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. Now, the signal pin main originally is 10, and you can see it says Arduino Uno uses OC1B. Now, that is a timer that's built into the chip, and DCC signal pin program uses 5. That's Arduino Uno uses OC0B. That is an interrupt. Now, those two, there are more timers in there. I used 6, but that didn't help me out on there. There's other figures on there that you'll have to change, and you can see where I did it here behind the remarks. I put what the default settings were, and I used 9, 10, A0 and 0, and 8 and 12. A lot of your shields are going to be using different pins for your motor direction. On mine, pin A is 8 and pin B is 12, where on the Arduino motor shield it's 12 and 13. This is where you're running into problems on these figures right here. And the enable pin for both the main and the program. Now, that's the PWM pins that you saw on the previous page. It was 3 and 11 for Arduino. Now, on my motor shield, it's 9 and 10. Now, see where the conflict is here? Where in this sketch they use pin number 10 for the timer, the OC1B timer that's built into the chip. Now, there's more timers in there, like I used 6, but it didn't quite work. I got this thing to work one time, but it didn't work fully. I was able to change settings in JMRI. I was able to write to it, but I wasn't able to read back. Now, when I went to the CV page, I tried to write the entire page, and it skipped every other one, so there's some kind of a timing issue in there. And the main did not work at all. The main just acted like, without even putting the throttle on it, the locomotive moved. There was no control over it. It just ran at a slow speed. But anyway, if you find a motor shield that you want to try to use, this is where you're going to have to change the settings on it. And I'll show you where. Over here, we're going to highlight this and do a search on it and come back over to the first page, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about here. This is where you would have to change it, but don't have enough. I just passed it up. I don't have enough experience on this to be able to change this right here. See, this is set timer 1. It uses OC1B, and that's pin 10. If you want to change it to 6, then that's a different pin. That's a different pin. That's a different timer, but I'm not exactly sure how to change it in this area right here. Now, I'm assuming, since this says OC1B, I could probably change it to COM1B1. Is that C1B? If I did 6, I'd have to look at what 6 is and then change it to that. But this is what the stumbling block is on most of the motor shields, is this right here. Now, I've gone on to forums and everything else, and I haven't seen anybody that has given a solution on what to do. I've seen somebody else said they used the motor shield that I mentioned earlier, but I've also seen a lot of complaints about that motor shield not working at all. So you have to be careful when you're doing that. But if you get down to it, the best thing to do is just go back to and find an Arduino motor shield. They're available, or else go get the Pololu, which is listed down here. Where's it at? Pololu. You're going to be paying a little bit more for it, but you get what you pay for. The Pololu is 3 amps per channel. So you have channel A is 3 amps, channel B is 2 amps. The Arduino channels are 2 amps apiece. Most of the generic ones that use the smaller chip in there, I think it's the L293, that's only 1.2 amps, and I'm not sure if that will handle anything on here, especially if you want to use more than a couple of locomotives running on your DCC++. I hope someone could come up with a better solution than this. I found, I spent a lot of hours trying to figure this thing out, and the only thing that I could figure out is to change that one setting over there, but I'm not exactly sure how to change that or what to put in there to change it. Somebody with more experience on programming in Arduino may be able to help out. I know there's a lot of people out there. I've seen them on the forums. It's just so hard to get a question in there and wait for an answer on some of those forums, because I've seen some questions on there that are from back in March and they still haven't been answered yet, which is just a simple question on how to do something. So some things you could find out on the forum and other things you can't. So it's hit or miss on there. But if you want to get your thing going in DCC++, either get the Arduino motor shield, which is still available in some places. You're going to be paying in a premium price, or the Pololu. The Pololu I found on Amazon is $31, I think $31.95 or something like that. It's a good motor shield. You have to put it together. You have to put the headers on there and the little connectors like these on here for your terminals, but you get what you pay for. It's good and it'll work. It'll work. So I think when Greg Berman first designed it, he said those were the only two that he found that would work on there, but that was like 7 years ago. Now, he hasn't been on any of the forums since about over a year ago. That's the last time that I think it was Train Board Forum, where that was about the last time he was on there. It was over maybe 18 months ago. So he hasn't been on there answering questions. He hasn't been answering questions on his YouTube channel either. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I think, if you want to find out something, there's somebody out there that knows how to do it. So I hope they could come on and help us out with this. If you want to use the generic ones, this is a good motor shield right here. It's not a cheap one, but it's just, it just uses different pins than the Arduino one. And unfortunately, the one pin that we need, it uses for something else. Most of the questions that I get on my emails is about troubleshooting. The viewers run into a problem. They can't figure out how to solve the problem. Now, whenever you're troubleshooting, now I'm going to go over a few tips for troubleshooting. I've been doing troubleshooting for over 40 years. I have a little technique where I break everything down. So first of all, you have to determine, is it always done that? That's number one. Or has it just started doing that since I did some changes on whatever I was working on? If it's always done that, you got to go back to the beginning. In fact, on both of them, you got to go back to the beginning. You got to go back to the beginning and break everything down into sections. Say you have a circuit that you're working on and it's not working. So you have to start at the beginning and the end, and you have to break it into small sections and take one section at a time and just troubleshoot it and make sure what you have, what is working and what is not working. So you start at the beginning and say you got power here, but you don't have power over here at the end. Well, cut that in half and then check it over here. If you have power there, then you know you don't have to worry about this over here, that you start looking over that way. But if you don't have power where you cut it in half again, okay, and then go back and check right there, and then break it down into the smallest part where you have power and where you don't have power. That's the easiest way to troubleshoot something. Not only looking for power, but looking on your track circuits and everything else. I had a gentleman that's been playing around with AR1s and PM42s for a long time, and he finally figured it out after breaking it down into that. I'm having an issue right now with my AR1s. I could run something over it for 15 times, the 16th time going over it, and it'll stop for about 5 seconds and it'll go. And that's on all my AR1s, so I got to figure out what's going on with that. But anyway, that's how you troubleshoot it. Now, if you're troubleshooting something where it was working before and it's not working now since you did something, no matter what you think you did that's correct, you overlooked something on it. So you got to go back to see what you just did and undo that. Take everything apart and put it back together. And chances are that is where you're going to find your problem. I've had to troubleshoot problems where other people worked on something, and the first thing that I would ask them to do is, what was the last thing that somebody worked on that? And that's the first place that I would go to see where the problem is. That's normally where it normally is going to occur. Now, sometimes you'll have two problems. Maybe you'll have a problem one place that really doesn't show up until you do something and it causes a problem, and that compounds the problem. So once you get the one problem fixed, you'll see that there is another problem someplace else. You just have to break it down into the smallest part and just figure out what happened, what was the last thing that I worked on before it started messing up. And that's where you start your troubleshooting on there. And if you do it that way, you're always going to find it. It might take a while and you might overlook it, because I do it all the time. It's the smallest thing. You look at it and say, oh, that looks good. But take the thing apart. If it's wiring, if it's a connector, take it apart and redo it, because most likely that's where the problem is. Another one is on the sketches. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me on the lessons for the Arduino Made Easy, where they have problems with the sketch and they can't figure it out. And all I can say is on that, with Arduino, when you go and you click on it to compile, it's going to tell you exactly where that problem is. Most of the time, you either spelled it wrong, you forgot to put the semicolon in there, you missed what is that? Parentheses. You missed a parentheses, or you missed a curly bracket somewhere. Because a lot of times it'll be looking for a curly bracket at the end of the loop or the end of the setup. You may have deleted it by mistake, and those are the most common errors in there. And if it tells you it wasn't recognized, that's because you didn't initialize it. You have to initialize it up at the top of your sketch. So basically, any problem that comes up in it, Arduino tells you where it is. And the most common ones are, you missed the semicolon, you misspelled it, or you spelled it, maybe not misspelled it, but you spelled it differently than you did in the initialization. You missed a parenthesis someplace, or you missed a curly bracket. Those are the most common ones. There's other ones in there, but those are the most common mistakes that you'll come across in the Arduino sketches. I had another question on there about copper tape. Now, you could buy copper tape, and it's a foil tape, and they wanted to know if you could use it for the bus wires, and I said definitely not. the copper tape is not thick enough, it will not handle the amperage. But what you can do is, if you're running your LEDs or something else, you're running a small amount of amperage through a building or something, and you could put that tape in there. You could even solder to it. You could solder your wires to it. But that's what you use that copper tape for. Use it for small amperage applications, and that's it. Nothing more. Okay, I had another person ask me about, can you use servos and Arduinos for a turntable? Yes, you can. There are many videos out there. In fact, there was a guy on YouTube Model Builders, which I told this person the same thing on the YouTube Model Builders on their Arduino workshop videos. They featured him 2 times on the videos. That the last time that I seen a video on that turntable application, I mean, it had a big servo on her, servo motor, and a big driver as a big box. But I mean, it might have been a little overkill for a turntable, especially if it was HO. But I mean, he had it on there. I've seen other videos on there. Yes, you can use it. You just have to search for it. I haven't done anything with servos or anything like that yet. I'll be doing it, but right now I don't have anything available right now. Arduinos and building lightings. Yes, I do have videos on that, and I'm going to have more videos on that. In fact, I'm working on one right now. Here's all my lighting and everything right here. I just put it inside. And these are the remember those wall warts that I took apart? We're using those wires on there. But what I did, I soldered some SMD LEDs to it, and I made these little separations in there. And I also have some pictures that I'm going to glue onto these for the interiors, and then put the lighting in there. And I have a Nano and a DF mini player on here where I'm going to have sound effects on it. So altogether I have 12 LEDs on here, and the sound effects, and that's about it on a Nano. I have the sketch figured out. I just have to put the sound effects on the SD card. I had some issues with the SD card on how I put them in there, but I've got that taken care of now, and I'll be doing a video on that also. I may have mentioned something about ATtiny 85. I also picked up some ATtiny 84s that have a little bit more inputs and outputs on it than the 85 does. The 85 only has 5 inputs and outputs. If you have a project where you only need a few outputs, you could use it on there just like your Arduino, except if you go to if you go to digit keys, the small one with the 5 input outputs, the ATtiny 85, is only $1.24, and the ATtiny 84 is $2.04, and that's what I have here. I picked up a bunch of them for $2.04, and I can't remember how many they have on there, but they have a little bit more than the 85 does. So this is the ATtiny 84 at DigiKeys. You can get them real cheap, and we're going to be doing a video on that. I think I have some footage already for when I did the 84. I think I posted a little bit of it on Facebook a week or two ago. I'm going to use that and some more footage that I had, and I'm going to be doing some experiments on this one here. What I was trying to do was get the 3 PWM to work on the 85. Unfortunately, it only has 2 PWM pins on it. Now there is a workaround on it that somebody came up with years ago, but all it does uses 2 extra pins, but it mimics the 2 PWM pins. So whatever you have going on the 2 PWM pins, the other 2 PWM pins are going to do the same thing. Unless you change the numbers, then it doesn't look right. They were using it for RGB LEDs. So we're going to be doing a video on them pretty soon. So keep an eye out for it, and we'll see you next time.